Hi, Kirell. Good evening to you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for taking the time and for being with us today. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. It should be fun. It should be interesting conversation and session today. Thank you all for joining from wherever you are based. I hope you will have some, maybe you have some questions. Maybe you want to learn something. So it's an open space here. So I'm looking forward to this. Before we dive in, I'd like to spend a few minutes, obviously, on notes. So it's coming up. So we have our online developer conference in 2 weeks' time on the 16th and 17th of November. So if you have not registered, please do so. It's going to be a 24-hour live stream event. So no matter where you're based, you can watch it from wherever you are, but you can also expect something to happen during your daytime. So it's not going to be late or early in some regions, and for others it's going to be the perfect time. It's going to be stretched out across all the time zones. So we had made the decision to make this available for everybody. So please check out the agenda, which is on the website, and register for notes if you haven't done so. It's going to be fun. Lots of sessions for interested people who just want to learn, beginner level or for advanced and seasoned graph experts, as well as data scientists. I think there is a broad spectrum of content happening on these 2 days. So yes, have a look, check it out. I'll post the link in chat. Here you go. So you can. Oops, this was. So here we go, and this so we can register and explore the agenda. But today, different topic. Graph data art with Kirell Benzi. So I'm really excited for this. And I'd like to give a little bit of a backstory. A colleague of mine, Andreas, who watched you present at some conference somewhere, and he pinged me and said, "Wow, this guy is so cool. He made all these great these graph visualizations, and it looked so amazing. We should have him on stage sometime. And if we could have him for some presentation, that would be great." And I said, "Okay, sure. I mean, I can try. He's probably a very busy man, but maybe his time." So I pinged you, and you were able to do it today. So I'm really happy about it. So on your website, when you go to your website, it says you are a data artist, science communicator, and researcher. So I mean, data artist. That's like. Did you coin that term, or are there other people around who call themselves data artists?
Hey, hi everyone. I'm not really sure, but I mean it's exactly what I do. So I didn't really find a right word for it. I think you already know data visualization artist, that this already exists. But I want to try to first make it shorter and also a bit more broad, because I do network art, which I call graph data art if you want, but I also do other type of art, fractal and AI driven art. So I don't know, data, as long as it uses data in a way, I try to do it in a way. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I mean, maybe you want to say a few words about yourself as well before go somewhere further.
Yeah. So I think the question that I get the most often is, how did you get started, right? Because it's a bit weird to come on. So my background is really in engineering. I was a software engineer, then I work in a research lab, and I decided that I maybe should pursue a PhD. I had no clue at the time. Because I was working as an engineer, and I saw people around me doing, they were cool, like papers and everything. So, oh, cool, looks great. 4.5 years later, it's bleeding from my ass. But I did it, right? And so, as a scientist, I realized that I really had a hard time explaining what I was doing. I was working on graphs, and my thesis is really about how to use graph as a tool to explore big data and find new algorithm to use graph to like extract interesting insights from the data. But when people were asking me, hey, what are you working on? I was always, eager to go on the whiteboard, draw some graph, edges, math. And then I realized, people were asking this just out of courtesy, right? They don't really care about what
Yeah.
you do. No one cares about
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, dang, it's really interesting what I do. I mean, to me. So I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I should find another way to present it so that I can use some more visualization so that people will see pretty pictures in a way. And this is how I really got started in learning more about the field of database. And then because my dad is a producer and musician, I also all of this artistic fiber in a way.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I could maybe try to push it to be a bit more artistic. The rationale being that if you are when you study data or math or graphs, it's really like the most logical and rational part of your brain. But if you could add also the other hemisphere, like more for creativity, emotions, maybe you have a better retention of what you're trying to say. So this was my whole idea. Maybe if we combine both hemispheres in a way, then you have a more memorable experience of the data that you are working with. And this is how I get started to do graph visualization and more.
Yeah, cool. I mean, that's always I think a tricky aspect with the visual aspect is so easy for lots of people to understand. So you show somebody a picture of something and they know what it is about. So I mean, it can be like very verbose to say, here's a picture of a tree, so okay, it's a tree. But if you go into the data world, it's like, okay, here's a picture of your data. It's usually a table, and it's like, I have no idea what you're showing to me. It's it's very hard, and then you need to find some way that makes it a little bit more understandable for people who don't look into tables all the time, like you say. I mean,
even the scale, right? Because the table has
yes,
1 million rows, so like no human brain can understand that much information. So in a way, we need to do some kind of agglomeration or like filtering, any kind of technique just to make it more manageable for us, because it's way too big to grasp, right? And so
yeah, absolutely. And then you go you take this abstraction, or you take a different approach, and sometimes you the abstraction usually is comes in some kind of dashboard where you show, maybe like you say, you narrow it down a little bit, then you show a chart, a pie chart or something with lines, or maybe a map that helps a little bit, or some highlights and stuff like that. But then it's again it's drilled down into more confined scope where you
more
understand
traditional,
it.
right? In a way,
Yeah,
it's been, which is cool, right? And we need that. I mean, when I do visualization for a new project, I always start with the basics. I mean, usually I use Python and I load the data and I do some basic charts, because I have no clue of what the data is really about. And this is how you can really get started, get the gist of the data, and hopefully find a new creative, visualization for this.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's how you usually start. Anyways, you should start with that. And if you talk about data and databases, this Neo4j, then we always say, okay, start with a smaller piece of your data. Maybe gather a few people, go to a whiteboard, draw some initial sketches, and then start with a small chunk to see, okay, what does it tell you? Does it make sense? Do you understand what's going on? Because you cannot start importing 1 billion table file and then expect to understand what's happening in a graph visualization, because it's going to be a lot either way. I mean, 1 million tables or 1 billion or however many rows in a table is going to be crazy, but the same will be true for a graph. If you have no idea what's going on there, you just see a blob of nodes and edges, and you have no idea what's going on either.
Exactly. And I have a funny story about Neo4j, because it's actually the first database I used. So it was like a few years ago. I don't know, maybe like the one that was at the beginning of Neo4j, I guess. And it's the first database, graph database that I used to model my Star Wars visualization, which really for me was the big reveal. Because so just I mean, I can show it. It's on my website, but I can maybe show it later. But it was back in the day. I think it was just before the 7th episode. Like I think it was 2015. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, can be maybe.
And I wanted to map basically the Star Wars universe, all the characters that have ever been created because the Star Wars universe is far more bigger than just the movies, right? There are actually 800 books have been written.
800 books.
Yeah, it's insane. Video games. The history spans from 36 or 37,000 years in the Star Wars history. So it's the largest fictional universe ever created. And I was really eager to have a mapping of all the characters. And so I took the Wikipedia, which is the Wikipedia for Star Wars fans. And I mean, you can, for people online, just look it up. It's more than 150,000 pages of individual people, planets, objects, whatever related to the Star Wars universe. And I did the scraping of the whole website. And for each character, in the biography of each character, which was not that easy because there was no clear, and there's still no clear index of all the characters, skipping the technical part, finding in the biography other links to other characters. And then you could rapidly create this amazing network of characters and try to describe what was the relationship between characters. For instance, the son of Luke Skywalker is the son of Darth Vader, or other related kind of ontologies of describing how what type of relation. And I used the database to store everything. And it was it was one of the big projects because I did an article on my blog, no one cared, and try to understand the different races, because it's very funny in Star Wars. You have humans, but it advertised, this is the big galaxy and humans are just a very small part in the Star Wars universe. But in actuality, in the data, I think more than 80% of characters were humans. So I was like, it's more easier for us humans to relate to other humans for storytelling than three-headed tigers or so. But it was one of the core reveal. And then I made a second blog post about showing the graph and showing some algorithm to find the missing data, because a lot of data were missing from the info box of the Wikipedia of each character. And then it went crazy. There are millions of views on all the tech journals at the time, like Gizmodo, Wired, whatever. And people was, it's really beautiful. And I was like, no, but I didn't try to make it beautiful. It was just, to me, like a technical visualization. And then from then on, if people want beautiful, then I can do better. And this is how I made the first, first or second art with the Star Wars universe. So.
Oh yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, maybe we can show that later or something else. I mean, that's what I mean when you talk about this and when you show it to somebody, then it's like, oh yeah, this looks very nice. I mean, they necessarily don't understand what's going on, or they don't necessarily maybe they don't want to even. It doesn't matter much, because it's just it can be very pretty, especially. It probably, I would say, a graph is exceptionally pretty when it doesn't convey any messages anymore, because it's so big, it's so many, it's so huge. You maybe you can define, okay, there's a cluster here or a community or a group of it there, but that's more of like the general outline you can describe there, but you won't see any insights, because it's at this point it's so large. It is more like a beautiful picture or art instead than actually giving you something to say, okay, now because I see this here, I do action X, because it gives me an insight, or I know something about it, or I don't know, give a recommendation, or detect some fraud or whatever else. But in the large scale, when it's so big, it's probably maybe a few major points you can sort of describe there, or features of your general data, how it looks like. But in drilling down, you won't see anything there, I think.
I agree. I mean, it's exactly you can really get lost in the sea of information. But I think that's where the art comes from, right? Because if it's actually, I always say then when I do this for clients, is that if you have 200 points, this is too little, right? I need more data so that you can be lost in the and realize, each point that I see here is really a data point and it looks very big and very complex, right? I like the fact that it's complex visually. If it's 200 points, then it's too trivial in a way to visualize, and the less creativity, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. Maybe I weave this in because it just came up in chat. Michael asks, do you have certain graph visualizations that you find especially helpful in working with data, or he says
You mean
comparing
like
graph?
different layouts, or just not only using the node link view, but some other type of views? Yeah, I mean the default stuff is always to go with the force layout, right? Which is the standard. It's pretty good but we always have, depending on the graph, the hairball problem, right? The small word effect, where few nodes are very, very well connected, and they basically destroy the whole geometry of the whole layout. And a good example of this is Wikipedia, because I worked on Wikipedia a lot back in the days. And some pages like GPS had more than 1 million links, because every page, like referring a country or place, has a link to GPS. So then you have like a few, I don't know, 1,000 nodes, maybe 1,000, that breaking the whole geometry of Wikipedia, because everything relates to them. So you need to delete them, or just reduce the number of edges drastically if you really want to have pattern to emerge, right? So the force layout is really cool, but you also have to work on the initial data in a way. Otherwise, you always have this very connected center, and then the algorithm cannot really work because it's way too big, and it doesn't really give any patterns. But then you have open ORD, like we would say the standard Jeffy algorithm that we all know are good. Then the magic happens when you really start to break part of the graph, because you cannot just run the algorithm and then it's done, right? You have to isolate the cluster, find different layouts for different part of the graph, and think of the end message. Is it something figurative, which is very difficult to do? And I tried 1-2 example, so that when you see the shape of the graph, it gives you an insight about what is the topic of the data behind it. It's very difficult, because what is the shape of Wikipedia, right? But for instance, I have one data set where I work with scientists and biologists, and from Switzerland, and they were doing some sample, like ground samples of trees and leaves, and something from the forest, and the shape looks like more or less a flower. So I was very happy with the design, because it would give you an insight of what's in the data set. But I think it's one of 2 examples that I have. Otherwise, it's mostly abstract, because I don't have a clear shape of Wikipedia or Star Wars.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, shall we can we show a few things?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's cool to talk, right? But it's better to show. Maybe I'll try to share my screen, or some windows at least. So let me just start with the Star Wars stuff. We talk about the Star Wars thing. Can you see it? I mean, it's appearing, right? So this is like the first thing that I did. And so if I zoom in, you would see, 20, I mean, back in the day, right? 20,000 characters. I think that much more now with the new movies that came out, the new series, new books. I mean, it's Star Wars, right? You have enough material for the next 100 years. And you see, like, you have of course, the Emperor, and you have Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, and like, funnily, I mean, it makes sense, right? All the characters that are from the first trilogy are here, and they are the most connected, because you have the most background written about them, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Funnily, this is the Jabba the Hutt, the yellow, because to color the criminals in, the red, of course, at the Empire, the blue are the good guys, and you have this yellow in between. And if you study the connection of the criminals, they are, of course, mostly connected to bad guys, right? So it's really interesting. Then why is there a cluster here? And we noticed that this was actually I think a comic book that was like basically connected loosely to the rest of the Star Wars universe. But then, of course, if you study like more and more the structure and the cluster, you really find a very, very interesting story. So this was one of the first art like piece that I did 7 years ago, I would say.
Yeah.
So this is
and I mean, I guess why when I mean, this looks in itself, it looks really also pretty, and you like what you said before, right? This cluster down there gives you some insight. Say, okay, there's some strange things going on. You can have a look at it, and then you dig in. But then you see here lots of red, lots of blue. So obviously the rebellions and the rebels and the empire, and then you see a couple.
Yeah, exactly. And you see the difference between data art and data visualization is that here we are really trying to emphasize the overall feeling and emotion when you see the whole shape. We are not here to say, hey, I'm zooming in and I really want to see the connection from this guy. It's not what we are optimizing for, right? Here we try to give you a sense of wonder or, aesthetic, whatever you want to call it. But it's not, I think it's really important to make the distinction, because this is not a standard data visual. It's not there to be the most helpful or the most efficient at communicating where are the clusters and how they are basically organizing the data, right? We try to get away from that in a way. But because I have this usually like people asking me, but is it really useful? It is, but it's not for the same purpose. Here, if you want to talk about the message, or if you want to talk about bringing emotion and then talking about the underlying technology or data, I think this is perfect. But it's not the best representation if you really want to highlight all the different clusters.
No, but that's not. I think that's very important, and I think that's a great point you just made. Even if, I mean, in this case it's art, but the data is there underneath it also. You can, if you want to, you can go and check it out and go for something in detail, or explore some more.
Another visualization, you can have. That's what I did. Like more technical, or you talk about the clusters, the bar charts, whatever. But that's not the goal for data art.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I can maybe show you, I don't know, other stuff. So if I change the picture, I don't think you see it, so I have to stop sharing again. Or I can share my whole screen. I don't know which is best. What do you think? The whole screen is better?
Probably the whole screen. I mean, makes it easier for switching between tabs.
So here I'm the whole screen. So this one is pretty cool. I mean, right? I chose the examples. Try to find cool examples. But this one,
I mean, when you see this, I mean, this could be a when I look at this could be a picture hanging at a wall of a museum, because it looks very, to me, it looks very visually appealing. It looks very, very beautiful. And if it looks like almost like paint dots, little paint brush. I don't know what the word for it.
Strokes, like the
strokes, exactly. Yeah, on canvas, and it. If you don't tell somebody that this is actually data, you know, nobody would say anything.
Nobody would say, right? That could be, but I think, and it's a very interesting point that you raised, because I made my small study a few years back asking people, hey, I'm showing you this piece, no description. Then I'm showing you the same piece with the description describing what is the data set, what does it mean, and so forth. And then I asked, did your perception change after reading the description? Like, does it influence the perceived beauty or meaning that you have? And do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? And it was really interesting to see, like on average, that people were knowing that this was actually real data, they appreciated more. And sometimes they actually changed their opinion, because I asked them, can you rank those 5 pieces? Which one is your favorite and your least favorite? And now that you read the story, re-rank this again and see if it's it changes. And it changed. So like the meaning and fact that the fact that it's based on not my only subjective view as an artist, but on a more objective truth given by the data set was really important for this. So 300 people, it's not a big sample, but it was, I mean, to me was quite insightful to really perceive the value of data art compared to abstract art, I would say.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one is interesting because I mean, what I like is like if you look at it, you have no clue of what it is. It could be anything, right?
Yes.
The whole point, right? So this is an organizational chart. So basically, it's this is the CEO of it was done for the Havas group, which is one of the biggest communication group fourth biggest in the world. They have tons of more than 200 small agencies in like, I don't know, 70 countries. And it was just a map of the whole organization from the CEO to the top. So the CEO is at the bottom. Instead of having the regular radial chart, which I did, and I think it's pretty cool if you want to read about it, because I made a Medium post about the whole process. And I explained that I started by scrapping the data, which was more difficult, but legal, right? I have the HR giving me rights to do that. Right? And usually this is something you would create, right? It's the more typical hierarchical organization. You have the CEO at the center, and you really see here all the levels of. This is the top executive. Then their subordinates, and this here is the intern of the intern of the intern, right? This is like the deepest level in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
So this is pretty cool.
Furthest away from the CEO. Yeah.
Very far away, 11 levels deep, right? So you need to work a lot to reach the top.
Yeah.
But so this is pretty cool because you have you can really see the layers here. But it's always about doing, constraints and design constraints, because here it's pretty cool, but you don't have a clue of how many nodes there are, right? Because they are all basically stacked on top of each other. So I was like, okay, this is cool. Now we can go a bit bigger and try to just put a small, that make the nodes not overlap themselves. So you have a better understanding of how many people there are here, right? And here, but now we see that we are losing the hierarchical structure that we had before. It's more difficult to see, right?
Yes, it gets a little bit more blurred.
It's more blurred, but then we see that there are more people. That it's not just like very clean circles. That actually a ton of people in this group and company. And I was like, okay, that is cool, but it's also pretty, it's standard in a way that it's the big boss that's in center. So can I do better? And this was where I was back in the day. And I was like, okay, maybe I should change. I should do some completely different visualization, trying something very uncommon for people. You guys are graph experts, so this is very uncommon for a graph to have this kind of visualization.
Yes.
Like a triangle, and then you really see this time the clusters, right? Each band of color is a different community in the graph.
I
right?
see.
So they are all colored like this, and it's nice because now you can see how big each community is basically.
Okay. So depending on the amount that the band is basically larger than also the smaller group top bottom right.
Exactly. And this was of course the CEO, and then you can really organize.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's pretty cool, but it's like, okay, but it's a bit too geometric. So we are losing now the fact that it's more organic and it comes from a company, and then people are moving and they work together. So I'm just trying to explain the whole process, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I ended up with the final piece that I showed here, but I can show it better here. And then really fast. So no, I want to do something else, and I want to do more like a field of flowers or something. Or the CEO is at the bottom, and metaphorically help people grow in the company, right? So that it's art, but it's true, right, in a way. And so now you have here you lose everything. You lose the hierarchy in a way. You see that of course if you're more at the bottom of the image, then you are higher in the hierarchy tree, but that's it. But people are a bit mixed together, and I found it more compelling and more artistic than the original radial chart that I showed at the beginning. So it was the whole process of going over, and because it's when do you decide when you finished your art piece? When it's for a client, then you have a deadline and then it's done. But otherwise you can always go back to it. So at some point you need to push yourself, and I was not really happy with what I was doing before. So I really it took some more than a month to go over the shape again and say, no, it's not exactly what I want to say, and change it again.
Yeah.
And you still have the intern of the intern somewhere here, right? It's still
it's still there. Yeah. But it's funny. This is this kind of visualization, or this kind of project is very, very interesting, I think, for many companies, and particularly because they want to facilitate this cross-team collaboration across departments, skill sharing, exchange of ideas, as well as this technology, or this, we have this skill, but this would be handy for this other group that works on some project X and Y. And you see here, I think you see these lines going across, and you see there's some of this is already in there. So It's
Exactly. And it was, I mean, to me was because of course this is the cherry on top because you see the art, but like the data creating this graph was exactly really insightful about and very political, I would say as well. So you have to be careful, right? Because people like, and you find many managers and not enough coders or too many coders because you now really start to analyze the data of the whole company. So you have different agencies. Why there are like 5 people in there and 200 in the other? So right. I didn't go that far, but this is what I described in my article, that it's really interesting for companies what you can do with this sort of graph representation to analyze the hierarchy and the whole structure of the company, basically.
Cool. Yeah, I'll just share the link in chat. So if anybody wants to have a look at that.
You have the link? Should I share it?
No, I'll have it. I found it and I'll put it in, and it's also will be in the video description afterwards. So cool too. Yeah, that's a really beautiful piece. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have other stuff. I don't know. Yeah, I have many other things to show. I can talk about.
There's a question in chat from Owen. If you work with animated graphs or animated data.
I knew that. Yes. Yeah. This was actually my next point of order. It's pretty cool. Yes, of course.
It's not scripted.
No, it's not scripted, but it makes sense because I already like so static pieces, which are very good for kind of this museal artistic representation. You go in this gallery, but sometimes if you want to make something interactive, it's also better to have people browse the data or play with it. And I have an example for this, which is first, and let me show you because this is an example. I have first the static image was basically a project that I made for a bank in Geneva, which I cannot name because I have 17 pages of contract saying that I can never name them, but it's a private bank. But they really wanted for their big annual event, they wanted to have a visualization of their basically all the emails that have been exchanged during one day, which is insane if you think about it. And I'm
one day. Okay, so keep in mind this is one day.
It's like this. Yeah, it's really like 200,000 links. It's just massive. And they wanted to have this visualization and also an interactive one. So I'll show first this one and then the interactive one. And you see that it's completely different, looks completely different. So I really like this one because it look at like very smooth and organic. I think it's departs from the others thing that I did at the beginning. And because you have the nice edge bundling, that makes the very smooth curves. And of course, you see the communities here. So you have, the front office, the back office, the HR is here. This is the top management. So you really, of course, try to recognize part of all the teams. But what you also see is that it's very well connected. It seems there's always a path that goes basically everywhere from all the employees of the company. Mm-hmm. And all the white dots that you see inside are external, people exchanging from the bank to the outside world because we have inbound emails and outbound emails, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, to me it was really interesting that just think of the data. So of course I had collaboration from them because you cannot read private emails from billionaires exchanging with the bank, right? It makes sense. So they anonymized everything. They didn't remove the emails. It was just basically ID 1 to 2, and then some other metadata such as was it blocked by the spam filter, because this was basically around the cybersecurity at the bank and saying, hey, we are as strong as our weakest link. So if you click on the strange attachment, then you can compromise the whole bank. So we don't really see that here, but you saw that in the interactive visualization. And so, yeah, they anonymized the data. I have some a reason why the email was rejected, the timestamp for sure. And yeah, try to gather all this data for just one day, which was actually quite big. I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I'm not really sure if anyone has ever attempted to map the emails of one company, because it's 2,400 people. Yeah. And I mean, it's interesting to see. This is just one day. Imagine over a year. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, you just think about yourself. How many emails do you get, and how many emails do you send per day? So as I guess, I mean, it should have been clear. I mean, it should have been very logical that this is going to be a big visualization. But then I thought, okay, how many emails can there be? I mean, 100 emails per head, maybe per day. But then I guess,
we have to, and some people are like, you have sync, like managers that receive email from everyone. The
exactly.
developers are receiving less emails, but they have more like internal, like Slack notification or something. So, and it was really, really interesting to see that. And but this was like, so the piece to be printed, so it's quite high res, right? This is like a bit more. This one is just like more 8K, but it's actually 12 or 13K. As an image, so you can print in like 3 by 3 meters if you want 300 DPIs, and I mean it looks good.
It looks good. Yeah, it does look very cool, and it's. I mean, from the visual, from seeing it, I get two kind of associations with this. One is a jellyfish, and the other one is like this sun, corona lens flare, or the corona flare out of the sun. So both make kind of sense. I mean, a jellyfish has lots of.
And I mean, and you still this circular shape. I mean, it's good that you noticed, because I tried to actually have this in the interactive visualization. So let me now show you this if it works, which is a bit different, and it's anonymized, right? So we don't have the whole data anymore. But you see that this is, I'm not sure how good it goes on the stream, but it's very smooth. And so you see that it's interactive. I can like load all the emails, and you see here all the units from the company inside and from the outside world. And small sliders here. You can also change the opacity so that you see like it's way too big, right? Now look, this is in the morning, and you see that when it's like 8, and see how big now it's crazy how old the image is. So that's why we reduce the opacity. And notice what I mentioned before with the threads, which are in red. And they wanted to see like, do we like advertise more like the regular usual senders, or only the threats, right? You see the basically.
Okay, I see. So like the red ones are detected, or
yes, like untrustful senders sending spam and everything, right? So and you can also like filter by unit. So this is kind of interactive in a way, and you can zoom in. So if you go back to resetting, and you can really be like inside of the graph in a way, and doing opacity maybe here, right? So that you are inside the network being basically displaced, and each line that you see is really it's a real email. It's not like random line. It's actually an email going from source to target, right? So these are real email. So this was actually very challenging to do, because you have to compress the data a lot, and it's already very big. When we load it, it really takes a long time to load. Even I try my best to compress it, but the sheer amount of edges, and because we want to be very precise, and this is actually this node to this one, then you need to store this data in a way that it can still be loaded by the website and everything. But I think you get the gist of it. This is like an interactive graph in a way. It's less interactive, that you can really click on each point, but I mean, it gives you, I think, an idea of the how massive the data exchange can be in one day.
Yeah, and Owen made a great comment just now. It's great to see this realistic view of the data. Being able to change your perspective can lead to new insights, and I think that's a very good point. You sometimes you look into almost like into a box, and then you have your fixed viewpoint, and this is what you see, and this is your world, and this is what makes sense. But if you this applies to all, but especially when we work with data, it's sometimes a bit harder. But if you can make that virtual step back, or a virtual shift of perspective, and look at it from a different angle, from a new set of perspective points, then you get to, something clicks maybe, or some insights come, and it's and this allows that beautifully.
I mean, and I really like the fact that we can like change, and it reacts in real time, right? It's pretty cool. I think to have this insight, like now I can only visualize the threads, and I've changed the time slice so that it doesn't move as fast as before. And if I reduce it, of course, I will have less and less data. But so, and the fact that this completely reacts in real time makes it very variable for insight, because depending on my point of view or your job, right? Are you like the top CEO, and you just want to have an overview? Are you like the cyber analyst, or the cyber security specialist, and you want to really nail what is this cluster? Why do we have all this? The guy, where are they coming from? Do I need to block IPs from certain domains and everything? Right?
Yeah. Or does a certain team Is it under threat a lot because it gets lots of attacks for some reason or other? And do they need special protection? Do we need to make sure that they are trained to spot these things before they actually become harmful? And then you can find this pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean that's what. Yeah, exactly. So this was exactly the topic of the conference was about. Yeah, showing some cool stuff with the data, but having this silver lining and underlying message of, hey, we have to be careful. But instead of being the regular training, hey, you have to be careful. Don't open emails. That maybe it's a better way to actually try to show some beauty, and you want to get interest and you want to learn more about data. That's really the essence of data art, and then maybe the message gets more imprinted in your brain, and then you get more careful in the end. And I think it's the same thing we can do, and I have other examples for sure about climate change, about other topics like this. Instead of being very punitive when you say you don't do this, I'm not sure, like we hear that so many times, so often, that we maybe we just filter it out. But if you can show it in a more beautiful way, then maybe it's because it's different. Then we want to, it's more, in my case, it was more about maybe I should preserve what we have now, the environment, whatever, because it looks beautiful and I want to continue preserving it. Then on the opposite way, say, no, don't do this, otherwise we're all going to die. You see?
Yeah. So, yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I think that's, it usually, I think that the don't do this if otherwise you get hit on the head is usually not so successful. You have to get people on board and to follow you on the journey. And I mean, in this case, just to stay here for a second, but then we can maybe do the environment piece if you like, or
yeah,
another.
I have to look it up, but yeah, sure.
It's like you see your inbox. This is again perspective. Just like Owen said, you see your own email inbox, and you see maybe you get a couple of spam emails every day. Maybe there's a phishing attack or whatever every now and then. But you see it. You see your perspective, think, oh man, how bad can it be? I mean, this one, I can filter this out. There's no problem. I can find this. But then you see, oh, actually, the company as a whole gets thousands of these every day. Then it's becoming more of a problem, because it's obviously not my index might not be infected, but the others do get lots of these. And if we can filter them away or block them out, then everybody would benefit.
Exactly. So for the people who have trouble like loading because it's very heavy, and I also try to put like a screencast of the art on YouTube on my channel. It's just my name,
cool.
So that you can load it up, and hopefully it's a bit higher. You can have it 60 FPS, which is pretty smooth, because you need good computer. If you have a very old, it's gonna lag and it's not gonna look as good. So for people who would join us, you can also watch it on YouTube.
I have linked the
the channel. I mean, you can.
No, I think I found it. Okay. I'll add that to the video description. I'll put it in the chat now.
Yeah, I have another example. That is also graph related. That I finished. I think 10 days ago.
Oh, okay.
Yes, very big job. Actually, the biggest that I did so far for Google. And
yes, I've seen this. Yeah.
I mean, I try to. So once again, I also have the videos. Maybe I should have loaded the data, but it's there. Let's see, because I'm streaming from the computer, but I think it should be fine. And here it's basically, let me explain. Basically, this is like a website, but it's also a physical piece. So that I also sharing with you some pictures that I can also share after. And the goal here, so notice I can use the high res mode. It's a secret key. So basically what we try to show here, we have this cube, and you have this kind of simple graph, I would say, but we'll show basically 1,200 top fashion brands. And what we try to do for this event is to create a unique signature for each of these brands. So the unique signature created by their web presence. So taking data from Google search and trying to map the different topics, which comes out when you cluster them by topic. For instance, are you talking more about your products, more advertisement, more partnerships, more more sustainability, like 7 topics that we extracted using NLP and machine learning. It was a very
from Google searches or from
yes.
yeah,
Like
okay.
if you type the name of the brand, then you find some like online presence for this particular brand, right? So we can search. Let's say we go here and we go Adidas, right? And then for each brand, we have this kind of unique AI-driven view. So like the distribution of all the particles that you see is really comes from the analysis of the data, which it's really insane. It's 10 million points that we extracted for all the brands, and we have actually 5 neural networks to classify it, because we have brands that are in Polish, in Turkish. So most NLP algorithms, they work in English, right?
Yeah.
So first you have to detect the language. Then you have to translate everything to English. Then we did some sentiment analysis to remove basically like the bad news, because nothing stops you from actually having bad PR about your brand, right?
Yeah.
And then do the final embedding of the each brand in this space, and then trying to map this to different attractors and repulsor, like so that you can basically this unique AI shape for each brand. I'm not sure how well this goes.
It goes very. I mean, at least in my screen, it goes very well. I hope for other people as well.
But I also made I also made this kind of cool screencast with also the music and a bit of the idle mode that we. So if we don't touch the art for 1 minute, then it will go into idle mode and create some very nice shape. And when you go back, so let's say I'm on a brand here, and I go back out of a brand, that goes back to the graph view, which also links all the brands together according to the range of product they sell. So if you sell watches, you are most likely to be connected to another brand, selling watches, and also their geographical location. So if you're a French luxury fashion brand, you have also more chances to be connected to this. And the embedding of the graph is also created by the position by the TSNE, so this machine learning algorithm, and the connections are given by the shared characteristic. So it was a very big and difficult job, because we have this WebGL stuff, but as I mentioned, also the physical visualization. So basically, let me try to show some pictures. We had this website, but at the same time, while this event was running, we also had a mapping of all this art on a physical cube. So let me try.
I saw this video where you have like this almost like a installation. Oh yes, here, exactly.
So this is all. It's funny because this is also a website. It's the same website, but of course we had to adapt. It was very difficult, because it's usually when you create something for a physical installation, then you have another set of development. But we really tried to have the one code base basically that could do both. And this cube here is 3 tons, 3,000 kilos. It's insane. It's just you cannot. And I mean, I was really surprised by the just the weight of this whole cube.
Why is it so heavy? I mean, this is
exactly. Why is it so heavy? Because the structure is almost 1.5 ton. Is just the structure to have the LED screen. The structure has been created by hand, welded, and then just the amount of LED screen is 1.5 ton as well.
Okay, the LEDs. Okay, yeah. Then they are.
So it's I don't know. It's really huge too, and I didn't realize that it was that big. I don't know why I don't see all the pictures, but I don't. I mean, I don't want to, but I think I have a picture in front of the cube, and it really looks like more than 2 meters tall. So it's also the scale of the cube.
Yeah. Okay, I see.
I think maybe here. Yes.
Well, okay, that's a good one. Yeah,
but it's a big cube, and that's this projection mapping. So on the side, it looks more like the lines are bigger, which makes sense, because when you are in front of the cube, you also see the depth. So it feels like you see the inside of the cube. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm clear, but inside, when you really are aligned with the cube, you feel like it's 3D.
It's 3D. Yeah, you can almost like virtual reality without being virtual.
Yes,
so you
exactly. And so we had this cube here, and also the columns the 4 columns that you had behind. And this is the screenshot. So the same code base to do this and the physical installation. So it was a big job.
And the installation, was it like input panel where you could say like do the same search,
Yes,
like
exactly. You also have like tablets, and you could search on your brand, and it would of course like rotate. It's like equivalent of like clicking here, right? And you would create, and you would see your AI driven signature like this.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, so this was a big job that we finished, and so to answer the first question, can we do interactive graph? Yes.
Yes, that's very beautiful. Nathan asks, how long does it take to create a piece, something like this or other? And do you do this alone, or are you working with a team?
It really depends on the data set. So here, this one, it took us, I would say, us, because we are like 4 people actually involved in doing that. The data part was insane. I mean, I'm skipping really over the details, but like scrapping 10 million points from the web, organizing, having this neural networks is not instantaneous, right? We needed like GPU farms to convert the data and translate. So this is like 1.5 months, 2 people. And then the visualization, we were 1.5 months, 2.5 people, and working 70 hours a week.
Oh,
So
okay.
we were dead at the end. But yes,
I'm glad you made it to this to this live stream today. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so like really big job. This one, I mean, doesn't look like much. I mean, it looks cool, but it
looks
really,
very cool. Yes,
it
yeah,
really
it does.
looks. It's really the data behind it. I think it makes it, as I said before, half of the story comes from the data behind, right? So when you look at this, you know, this brand is more about the collection, events, and shows, and less partnerships. So you have this kind of distribution of topics that you can see visually.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this again, like the conversation we had in the beginning. I think you see the big points right away by looking at the graph or at a visualization as such. You see if it's an environmentally focused company, or if it's like you say more on collections or more on other scenarios or the other topics. Then obviously the color changes. So this is very green, I guess. So sustainable products make a
Yeah, exactly right. It's that was the idea. Uniqlo. I mean, you see, they really have different shapes, so they really comes from which is quite difficult to do, because before we were showing one art piece, but in a way here we have to create 1,273 art pieces.
Yeah.
So we need some kind of automated help, right?
Of course, yeah.
So we are more about defining the rules to make it happen than, of course, hand tuning buy-in, which we didn't do. Right? It's driven by the data. But we were quite happy that it would create like unique visual shape that were quite, I think, different from each brand, because the data in itself is different.
Yeah. How did you? I mean, I don't know if you can go into this, but did you find what were the parameters you did define? Did you have a couple of key ones where you said, okay, this needs to be in this or that, so that
I mean, it's a good, but basically what you see, like the cluster, the position of all the clusters that you see is actually driven by the data itself. So we have this embedding of all the topics, and then itself, we basically, for each brand, we check whether or not the topics are correlated. So that, are you talking about sustainability and products all together? If so, then they get closer together. If not, they get more apart. So we have these rules to make the clusters, and then from the same clusters, then we basically displace and distribute the particles. So even like the position of all the cluster is driven by the data, and then we have basically the same amount of forces for everyone, but because the position is different and the center of each forces, then you have this kind of a different look each time.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, it's very technical, I'm sure, but yeah.
No, that's cool. I mean, that is what I was getting at. So it's you had a couple of parameters that were defined, and with these the visualization is rendered or has its rules. So it's built in a way that is different.
Yeah. But it's still heavy, right? If you have an old computer, I know it's going to lag a bit. So hopefully I invite you to watch with the nice music here, and you can also watch it if you have a cool screen in 4K at 60 frames per second. But yeah, otherwise it's a bit massive to load. But I mean, if you have to have a more recent computer. So I'm sorry, guys, on screen.
Well, I mean, I linked the video as well as the web application. So depending on your hardware, you can do either when you watch this, or better yet later afterwards, after we are done. But yeah, I think that's amazing examples and really beautiful, and that's I think the interesting thing for me is that they are beautiful and they are art pieces, but they also convey message. So I mean, obviously every art piece does convey a message, but they convey a message based on a data that is underneath, or that is making the art piece. So it's your creativity and it's your input, but it's also the data that comes with it, and then they show you, they tell you a story. And I think every data wants to tell its story. It's sometimes
Exactly. And so this is what I want to. And now, so if you are people listening to us, they work in companies. So we all have data. We also have personal data. We can visualize, WhatsApp messages if you want. So when you have this kind of something clicks in your mind, say, hey, but everything that I do, I can basically, as long as I can quantize it in a way, like capture it, heartbeat, sleep patterns, running, anything could be visualized in a way. So I think it's endless. I don't feel I can be out of job, but I mean, will never be out of data, right? So we are always a thing to visualize and create new stories that are also very personal. Because if I do, going back to this email visualization, I do this for 10 different companies, it will never look the same, because it's driven by the units of the company, how they exchange. So you can still have the same ID, but have it in different variation that will still give unique pieces all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So you go by this, and it's not the same every time, and it's every time it's different, but every time it's there's a story somewhere, and there's something to talk about, and it's a beauty, or it's actually something you take from there. So either a hierarchy, or the sentiment, or product, company outline, or email exchange. So it's pretty great. So yeah, I mean, that's I love it. So it's really amazing to see this, and it's nice because it's obviously graphy, and you see that this is how easy this makes it for or lends itself to art and to visualization, but is also there that that's what I want to say, is the story, or the data, the the insights in the data, or the stuff in the data. It still wants to come out, no matter what you do with it, but it's there, and it's visual, and it comes to the fore if you take it right, or if you do it right with a with graph visualization.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool. I think we are coming to an end now. I don't know if you have anything else to say or share.
I mean, I can share for days.
Yeah.
On my website, and each time there's a story, right? So we can do 10 podcasts like this. But no, I think hopefully people get the idea behind this, so they can like find more, like reach out to me anywhere you want. Be happy to describe the art in more details if you need to. Collaborations, whatever. I mean, I'm always eager to do this kind of stuff.
Great, cool. No, I'll your website is absolutely in the video description, Twitter as well, so you can be reached. So that would be great. Thank you for that offer, and thank you for presenting today, Kirell. It was really great. Thank you for your beautiful pieces of art. Keep doing them. I hope so. It's really beautiful. And
thank you very much for having me. I mean, it's really cool to talk with graph. I mean, because it's still a niche, and in a way, we're not that that many compared to the rest of data science or database. So I'm really eager to talk to people who actually work with graphs, because it's what my first passion and love was about graph visualization. So yeah, it's always great to be here. Thank you very much.
Cool, great. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for participating and for engaging in chat. This was it for today. So yeah, we'll be back, or I'll be back next week with a couple of speakers for a speaker panel heading up to Node. So I'll do this on Tuesday. So if you want to tune in, you can on YouTube and on other channels follow along for some warm-up sessions to Nodes. That's happening on Tuesday and on Thursday. And yeah, with that, I wish you all a great rest of your day. Have a good, evening, afternoon, or morning, depending. And Kirell, again, thank you very much for taking your time and for showcasing
Thank you very much.
your art.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Bye, everybody.